Welcome to the Inside Nutley Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Greco, and I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioner Thomas J. Evans, Director, Department of Revenue and Finance. Welcome back, Commissioner.
Hi, Tom. Good to be with you again.
When we last had you on Inside Nutley, we spent the majority of the time discussing your life and your accomplishments. Today, we'd like to dive a little deeper into the ins and outs of not only your department, but our township government as well. First of all, let's recap. You have been the Director of the Department of Revenue and Finance for 22 years, correct?
So I've been in my seat for 22 years. It just so happened that back in 2003, Gary Furnari became Judge Furnari, and that created a vacancy on the Board of Commissioners. I was asked to join the board at the request of Carmen Orecchio, Pete Scarpelli, and other commissioners to take on the responsibilities for revenue and finance.
Now, of course, in the Nutley Commission form of government, you are one of 5 commissioners that make up the legislative body of the municipality. Can you explain the commission form of government and how it is different from one with a mayor or a city council?
So, Tom, that's a great question. Many people really don't understand the commission form of government. When you have a team of people that work together very well, it's actually a very efficient form of government. Each commissioner is vested with the full responsibility to oversee and manage their department responsibilities. So for example, Commissioner Petracco is responsible for all of the operations and functions of the Public Safety Department. Myself, I have responsibility for the Municipal Clerk's office, the tax collection responsibilities, the tax assessor's responsibilities, all the Treasury functions, as well as code enforcement. And as a result, each commissioner comes to our table, the board meetings, to discuss what's going on in their departments, and we collectively determine what is the right direction and right decisions as it relates to Nutley. No commissioner actually operates on their own. We do it collectively as a team.
But how does that differ from a mayor or a city council?
As it relates to a mayor-council form or the Faulkner Act, the mayor has full responsibilities for running the town, along with the business administrator. The council members are there as actually policy members, and they vote according to policies or needs as it relates to their voting district. As another difference between a commission form, we don't get elected simply by getting a couple hundred votes because of our ward. We actually have to represent the entire town.
And it's nonpartisan.
Absolutely nonpartisan.
About how many towns are left in the state with our form of government?
If I had to put a number on it, I would say it's probably a little bit more than a handful.
Your office is in charge of administering the Board of Commissioners' governance functions. What does that mean exactly?
Interestingly enough, many people don't understand that we are actually a municipal corporation that is established by statute under the laws of the state of New Jersey, and as a result, we are accountable for what we do according to what the state of New Jersey allows municipalities to do. We don't actually have a complete free hand. So, for example, there's the public contract law. So anytime we make a purchase, we have to make sure we're abiding by all of the contracting laws. When we look at our bonding, we have to follow the rules that govern how we go out in the market and when we bond, as well as the fact that there are caps that are set that limit the amount appropriations can increase to 2.5%, and also manage the tax levy increase to 2%. So there's a lot of rules that we need to abide by.
Can you explain a little bit about how our town's Treasury Operations work?
The easiest way to look at it, and many people think of it that way, is actually sending out tax bills and collecting money. It is much more complicated than that. We are responsible for collecting a tax levy that's well over $120 million a year. It comes in forms of checks, wires, as well as cash. So security over the funds is paramount. That connects to, in effect, a backroom treasury operation, which ensures that all of the books and records of the town are accurate at all times, and that we're in compliance with the state rules and regulations. So just as it's a simple way of describing what a team of really great people do every day to make sure that we stay within the rules. Important part about it is that if we don't and we run afoul of those rules, we actually put in jeopardy our state aid.
Were you aware how complicated this position was before you took the job?
I have an extensive background in finance and operations with my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I was pretty much aware of what I was walking into. What I will say is, since I've been here, the way we operate is very different than the way we started.
In a good way.
In a very good way. In a very good way.
Obviously, when one thinks of your department, they immediately think of taxes. We will get to that. But there's so much more to it. I'd like to get your thoughts and goals regarding some areas that aren't as well known. Let's start with the Municipal Clerk's office.
Our Municipal Clerk's office provides, in effect, a gateway to the public. The clerk's office is facing for all inquiries that come into the town from whatever source to make sure that they are addressed. The clerk is responsible for compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the various transparency rules around Oprah, notary services, and all elections, so primary elections, general elections, as well as the upcoming municipal election. She is the local election official. All of that puts a significant amount of responsibility on the duties and functions of the Municipal Clerk's office. In addition, she is the secretary of the board, and so when we have our meetings, making sure our agenda is properly advertised, making sure that everything that on the agenda, such as social affair permits, as well as our various ordinances, are properly advertised so that the board is then allowed to engage in discussion or even votes on the matters that are before the board that evening. That is a recurring responsibility that happens every 2 weeks throughout the year.
What about the tax collector's office?
Tax collection, right? It's not simply about collecting money. The focus of the tax collector's office is just, yes, to collect the money that we're required to collect, follow the rules, right, around when it's supposed to be collected. But more importantly, my tax collector is involved every day with helping residents to take advantage of whatever the tax relief programs are that they can take advantage of, and helping them understand the state freeze program, the filing of the forms, and even when they have a problem, sitting down with them, helping them with the forms, and then even at times calling the state to get an issue cleared up. So we are designed, and what I insist on is that our orientation is always on how do we help people who come through our front door. When I'm often, people will hear me say, is that when you come in the front door at Town Hall, you're inviting someone into your living room. Treat them accordingly.
How about the tax assessor's office? No booing on the set, please.
So the tax assessor's office is an interesting concept because the tax assessor must, by law, operate with a level of independence. So the tax assessor has a dotted line report to me, but a solid line report to the actually to the Essex County Board of Taxation, right? And that ensures that he can carry out his responsibilities without any undue political influence. His focus and his goal is on the fair and equitable distribution of the tax. Therefore, every property, every commercial property, every residential property has a property record card, and it's his responsibility to make sure those are up to date and accurate.
And then, of course, there's the Code Enforcement Department.
Yes. Yes, you might consider those guys a little bit like the A-team. They go out, and obviously their job is to make sure that what is happening in town is in accordance with, again, rules and regulations. But they're very important rules. There's a state construction code that ensures that there's quality construction. There's state fire codes that ensure that there's fire safety and compliance. But when someone comes into the office and they have a question about an addition they want to put on their house, a pool they would like to add to their backyard, whatever that is. Again, they're there to help people understand what the rules are on the front end, and if necessary, assist them when they have to file an application before the Municipal Board of Adjustment in order to get a variance for what they want to do. So while they have to enforce, their orientation is about helping.
But yet they may be the most feared department in the whole town.
Well, it's sometimes it's like getting caught by your teacher in school when you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, right? And so you have that apprehension because you just got caught, right? So yes, they will let you know that you got caught, but then it shifts to saying, well, how can we make this right?
Your department also oversees and advises on many debt relief programs. Let's discuss some of those. Let's start with the Senior Freeze Program.
The Senior Freeze Program is a state program, and it's huge for the Township of Nutley. We have quietly worked to help seniors 65 and older, or someone who meets the disability standard, to qualify for the state freeze program. Today, we have over 1,300 properties that are benefiting from that program. The simple fact is that if you meet the income qualifying criteria for a 2-year period, you can freeze your taxes at a base level so that every year after that, whatever the increase in your taxes are, you get reimbursed by the state.
Can you speak to the $250 property tax deduction for senior citizens and disabled persons?
Well, yeah, so the $250 deduction for seniors, as well as the veteran deduction for seniors, right? Those, they're not the state program, they're benefits, but actually you're entitled to a deduction if you meet the qualifying criteria. For example, for a veteran, you just need to be a veteran. For a senior, you have to qualify certain income limits in order to take advantage of the $250. But it's surprising to me that we've had people sit with our tax collector and have been residents for 40 years, and the individual was a veteran and had no idea they could take advantage of that program, but they happened to be in the office on another question, and what happens is my tax collector will sit down with you and actually take a few moments to say, let's take a look, see what you're taking advantage of, and ask questions. And you'd be surprised how many times we're able to help people take advantage of that $250.
As someone who's lived here for 6 decades or so, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I really didn't know that your department offers as many helping hands as it does. Are you surprised that not as many people are aware of that as they should be?
Tom, I like that question. Thank you for asking. I always feel that we can communicate better and we can communicate more. We are taking advantage of the quarterly newsletters to publish information that goes out to our various households through social media presence. We do have flyers available in the building, and I do comment on it at periodically at my board meetings. But I always feel we can do more.
Tell me about the 100% disabled veteran property tax exemption.
It's a great benefit, right? It acknowledges and recognizes those that have served our country in various capacities there to protect all of us. And my heart goes out to everyone that serves, but in a special way to those actually that served and have, because of that service, have come away disabled. When they meet the disability requirements by the Veterans Administration, they then become eligible for a tax exemption, for 100% tax exemption. Today we have about 50 properties that are benefiting from that, and I work closely with Commissioner Kelly to make sure that we are taking advantage of that program, and as soon as we get the paperwork, it goes immediately up on the agenda. Afterwards, I follow up with a letter to the individual to make sure they have for their records the fact that they are tax exempt.
Wait, let me get this straight. So if you're a disabled veteran, you don't have to pay any property taxes at all?
Any veteran who is 100% disabled and has met the qualifying criteria that is determined by the Veterans Administration, yes, they are eligible for a full tax exemption on their property for as long as they live here.
Two of the newer programs are the Anchor program and the Stay New Jersey plan. Tell us more about those.
So the Anchor program is a direct program. It's a mailer. It goes out to residents, and if they meet the qualifying criteria for the Anchor program, it's automatic. You, in effect, dial on the phone, and you put in your information, and you secure your potential refund. We do have people that come into the office that are not sure what to do, and we help them, just like we do with every other program. The New Jersey State program is a brand new program that I'm watching very closely. It will become available in January of 2026. Right now, the simple rules are 65 years or older with an income level below $500,000 a year. You then become eligible for the NJ State program. The benefit is a maximum benefit up to $6,500 a year. So the rules and regulations are still being worked on, how that program fits with the freeze program per se, and which one provides the best benefit. The state is working through all of those combinations, and we're monitoring it very closely. It's top of mind for me.
All of those are state programs. Do we have any local programs available?
Tom, I've tried over the years to actually look at local programs. The simple fact is that under New Jersey law, all taxpayers are treated equally. So under the state rules, we're not allowed to have local programs that create unique benefits that could differentiate among taxpayers. So unfortunately, as much as I would like to do it, and I've tried to do it, right now state law doesn't allow it.
Let's delve into our most sensitive topic, taxes. As I said before, I've been in Nutley for over 60 years, and for the life of me, I can't remember a year when taxes went down. It's kind of a given, I think. I mean, where does the phrase "only two certainties in life are death and taxes" come from? But yeah, people seem to think it's a penalty and not a necessity, which I've never understood. I mean, just looking back over the last few years, food prices are up over 15%, gas prices are up over 20%, health insurance up over 20%, auto prices and auto insurance are up over 30%. But yet our taxes haven't gone up anywhere near that, correct?
Last year, when inflation was through the roof, the tax levy went up less than 2%. The work around that was significant by the Board of Commissioners together. I have to lead it to bring all the information to the table. But here's the thing that's really important about this. While I have revenue and finance, and people might think that that's all about numbers, right? In my career, it's never been just about numbers, because behind every number, there's a person. And those people have different needs, they have different requirements. So my constant focus is when we deal with cost increases, we work very hard to make changes in the tax rates nominal so that we can manage affordability. We're not immune from cost increases. We just work really hard to try and make it work. And what's really important about this, we've been able to do it without cutting services.
Well, that's kind of my point. I mean, if you went to the ShopRite 3 or 4 years ago, a bag of potato chips was probably $2.50, $3 at most for a full bag of potato chips. Today you go there, you're lucky if you get half a bag for $7. And everything else is way up there as well. But yet people just want to focus on property taxes. Yes, it's apples and oranges to stay in the grocery lane. But it's all relative. I mean, you want to complain about the property tax that's gone up 2%, when everything else is going up, skyrocketing. I just don't understand that way of thinking. 2% is pretty damn good, I think. Not that I want taxes to go up. If they didn't go up, I'd be as happy as anyone else. But I think 2% isn't that bad in today's world.
Manageable level.
Right. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you go back to 2020 and you look at our home values in Nutley, they've gone up how much?
About 30%.
So our taxes have gone up 2%, yet our home values have gone up 30%. What am I missing here?
There's a couple of things that I think are important to say. First off, it's great to have an increase in your assessable value. It's really wonderful when you go to sell your house. But the cost of staying in your home that is constantly rising, because it's not just property taxes, it's the cost of homeowners insurance, the maintenance cost, repair costs, all of those things are so critical to being able to stay in your home. That's why, for example, for seniors, the tax freeze program is so important for us to drive it, because it allows people to stay in their homes. So yes, so one thing you can look at is, yep, my property is up 30% or more for some, right? We can also look at the fact that Nutley fits in favorably in terms of the tax levy with other towns in Essex County, right? You can look at that. But what's at the root of it is, and what we can't control, is how much money people have in their pocket and how much money is available for them to spend. And believe me, I would think that most of us, including me, because I pay taxes too, would prefer to spend my money on something else other than property taxes. But it is a fact. So our focus then is always on how do we make it affordable? And I never lose sight of the fact that it's not just about numbers. It's about the people and whether or not we're doing our very best to stand up and support the municipality, but understand that there's a sensitive balance between what we need to do as a municipality and the people around us and their ability to afford it.
Recently, there was a story all over the media about a house in Nutley selling for something like $240,000 over list price. So you would say the demand to buy a house in Nutley is
very high, very high. Speak to any realtor about how long a Nutley house stays on the market, and you'll understand what the demand is.
We must be doing something right, no?
I hope so.
If you had to explain our tax breakdown in layman's terms, how would you do it?
Very simply, it's a combination of the taxes that have to be paid for the school district to operate, for the county to operate, and for the 5 departments of the municipality to operate. Roughly, half of the tax bill goes to the school, 16% goes to the county, and the remainder operates the 5 departments of the municipality.
I think that breakdown always surprises people, because I think when they get the property tax bill, they all think the same thing. Oh, geez, they're hiring more friends and relatives at the town hall. Right?
Yes, it does happen sometimes.
I think there are a couple of major issues that are on every resident's mind. First one being new developments and state aid. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
When you think about new development and state aid, the primary focus is on what happened to Hoffman LaRoche when it announced its closure in 2014, and what we've been able to do with the conversion of the Roche property to what is now owned by On3 into some pretty spectacular businesses. At the center of that was 2 decisions that were very critical. One was working with the state, working with Hackensack Meridian Health and Hoffman LaRoche to establish a private medical school for doctors, nurses, and technicians. The school is doing great. It's doing really great, and it has a beautiful brand name today. But that isn't just a Nutley responsibility. So we were able to talk to the state, and I led this in state discussions to say, how can we qualify for state aid? What was critical about this is that if we didn't get state aid back in 2014 and so on, we would have had to stay focused in maybe some short-term decisions that would not be as favorable to the town as they are today. So one aspect of that, the Hoffman LaRoche property could have become a huge Amazon distribution center. It's not. Today we have a Psy Pharmaceutical occupying the big glass building, right? A wonderful pharmaceutical company. Another one of the big buildings is occupied by Ralph Lauren, a well-known retailer. As I mentioned, the medical school, but along with the medical school is actually core research that is through the Discovery and Innovation Center with Hackensack Meridian Health. And one of their areas of focus is on cancer, core cancer, specifically blood-based cancer research. And then there's other manufacturers there that are they're taking an innovative approach to, I call it faux leather, but that does it a disservice, right? But looking at how you use collagen to create a leather, a high-end leather product. We're not finished. We've got more to do. But one of the things I'm very confident about, in the beginning where we were worried about losing almost $10 million worth of taxable revenues, we have recouped so far today a 7.2 million of that, inclusive of the state aid, a permanent state aid benefit of $2.6 million. And we will introduce other developments on that site that will, in my opinion, and I'm confident of this, will not only return us to the 10 million, but actually will grow beyond it so that it is a revenue source for the township.
Commissioner, help me understand. Did Nutley qualify for aid when Roach left?
In reality, no. It took a lot of effort working with the then governor and his chief of staff. I actually worked initially with Assemblyman Ralph Caputo to actually advance legislation down in the State House, which we actually were successful at. Unfortunately, it was vetoed by the governor because he felt he already had programming in place. When we looked at it, we found that actually the current programming for temporary aid didn't allow Nutley to qualify. So we were able to sit, and I actually sat in a conference room with the then chief of staff, and we rewrote the definition for qualifying temporary aid because it was the right thing to do. It wasn't political, it was simply the right thing to do so that we were able to get the aid we needed. So in 2014, that step actually amounted to $2.7 million worth of aid. The following year, it increased to $5.5 million. And between 14 and actually 2019, it totaled $28 million, or on average, $2,800 per household savings in taxes. I was able then to convert the temporary aid to permanent aid, primarily because I felt very strongly that while it's important for the state of New Jersey and for Hackensack Meridian Health to have a medical school, the taxpayers of Nutley should not be responsible for paying that fully. And the governor agreed, the State Department agreed, and now today we get $2.6 million every year in permanent aid.
That sounds like a lot of complicated financial work. Is it possible to do that job without the kind of financial background that you had?
I don't want to discount what others could do. What I can share is that what I have found is that you need to have a deep financial background to actually be able to sit down and read very complex, detailed contracts, right? And then prepare, a point of view about that to sit down at a negotiating table in the best interest of Nutley. So, for example, these documents relate simply to one transaction for Diamond Springs, right? And this is the smaller of them that we have to get through. But every page I have to sit down and go through and study them to understand what's in there and making sure that there isn't anything in there that would be in jeopardy for the township. My commissioners rely on me to do that because I have the financial responsibility, not exclusively because they're very competent people and they look at these things too, but I'm primarily responsible for sitting at the negotiating table to represent the township.
I can remember when Roach first announced that they were leaving, how scary it was for us who lived here, who had homes here. I'm sure everyone I talked to thought our taxes were going to double, triple, quadruple, but obviously that hasn't happened, as we touched on earlier. And I think that's a hell of a job by your department and the Board of Commissioners that people seem to forget.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. It's a credit to the Board of Commissioners too, because we do this together. What I do, and more specifically as it relates to those uses, while On 3 identifies the uses, the commissioners together, we look at those to see if they're acceptable, and that's what we want in our town. Once we identify the use, we then have to look at the taxing agreements, right? Sometimes affectionately referred to as pilot agreements. In our case, every one of those pilot agreements ensure that we're getting the full benefit of local taxation. So for our school and for our municipality. They also have a growth rate, so they're not static. They grow with us, and that was a part of a lot of in-depth negotiation over very complex financial agreements. We have more to do, and we will get it done.
I know that On 3 is just one of several new developments going on in town. Can you tell us anything more about the others?
We are in the middle of working on the development of age-restricted housing on the Diamond Springs property. Mayor Scarpelli and Commissioner Tucci negotiated a settlement associated with that. But what's important about it is it's providing housing, a type of housing that we haven't had before. So because it's age restricted, it actually, again, creates an opportunity for residents in town who are considering downsizing to have an option of something that they can move into. And it's a new benefit in town. As it relates to the Ciccolini property, there's much to develop associated with that. We're making progress, but at the heart of it, it actually has to have an element that advances our business district and acts as a catalyst for new business entry into town.
Like any small town, politics comes up quite a lot in conversation with friends and family. And I know when people ask me, or they question some of the decisions that the commissioners make, I kind of turn it back on them and I ask them if they know that, or if they realize that all the commissioners live in Nutley. And whether they say yes or no doesn't matter. My follow-up question is always, well, why would they do anything detrimental to the town? Do you think they want their home values to go down? Do you think they want to pay higher taxes? It seems pretty silly to me. What do you think?
Tom, I can't explain why that happens, but what I do know is, yes, I'm a lifelong resident of the town. I'm a product of Nutley High School, right? My children are a product of the Nutley school system, right? But I do live here, and the reason why I sit in this seat for the past 22 years is because I love this town. I want to give back. I want to bring all of my experience to the table, and I will continue every day to think about what's in the best interest of the town. And it's not just me, right? As a board of commissioners, we talk to people. We understand what's on the minds of various people. So we don't do this in isolation. We're very sensitive to that, and we will continue to be that way.
I think the other major topic in town is, of course, the schools. Whether it's the trailers or the overcrowding or the referendum, that seems to be on everybody's mind. I know that the Board of Commissioners has recently gotten together with the Board of Education to work together on a new program. Can you tell us more about that?
I'm very excited about that project. One Nutley, right? Think about that. One Nutley, right? In a world of chaos, we're talking about one Nutley. The Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education working together to accelerate the advancement of our school system. I am thrilled about this. I was fortunate enough to work as part of a subcommittee with Commissioner Tucci to actually work out the details of how we could work as the two boards working together as one. I think everybody saw a sample of the work last summer with the renovations to the front of the high school, as well as the repairs to Lincoln School and to Radcliffe School. And we're not done. We need to make sure that Nutley provides the highest and best education for our children. 21st century is a very dynamic century, and we're only at the beginning of it. Technology is advancing rapidly. We owe it to our children and the future generations to make sure that we can provide them, as I said, with the very best education to make them successful, right, in life, to have them have good lives. That's my focus around this, and why I'm fortunate to be able to be part of the Board of Commissioners who unanimously agree that we have to get this done. We will do more. We will focus in on making sure that ultimately we're able to accommodate all of the children that belong in the pre-K program. We're going to make sure that we get rid of as most people affectionately call them, trailers. They're technically mobile classrooms, but the trailers will go. But by working together, we're going to accelerate the process and get through this faster than anyone would think would be possible, right? In the past, it was easy for the board of commissioners to recognize that under state law, the school district is separate from the governing body, right? And that worked because the school board was able to do what they had to do, and we did what we needed to do. You know, as the saying goes, everybody focused in on their own knitting, right? That's not possible today. So we're going to be part of this. We're going to drive it forward, and it's only the beginning.
Just covering the topics that we covered today so far, it begs the question. First of all, you're retired now. You have grandchildren. Yet you still spend 30 hours a week here in this office working for the Township of Nutley for what, $2,000 a year? Why do you still do it?
Please don't short me. It's actually $2,250. And Tom, I have found that if you're going to do this job, it's easy to say, you got to commit the time, right? You have to come to the table with the right skills, the right experience, right? The right insight and perspective. And if you have all of that, you then need to dedicate the time. I found that to make the Revenue and Finance Department operate efficiently, because even today I have fewer people in the building than I did in 2014, with more reporting obligations than we had in 2014. So when I look at all of that, it just necessitates that you have to dedicate the time. And for me, that averages about 30 hours a week as a retiree.
But why do you do it?
As I said before, I love the town, right? I do it out of love. And that may sound corny, but I've said that the day that I lose my ability to be compassionate, to lose my empathy, right, and the way I care about the town, that's the day I should step down as a commissioner. That hasn't come yet. I've got so much to do, and we're focused on getting it done. And things like One Nutley make me very excited and keep me energized to keep going.
What's the future look like for Nutley in your eyes?
The future is always hard to predict, but I believe firmly that you can influence the future direction. And I think that's what we're doing. The new development in town, the focus on our schools, right? The completion of the Hoffman Roche transition to On3 and its new identity, keeping it a life science campus and things like that, make Nutley, I think, a very attractive town. And I think our brand is only going to improve. I do know one thing, right? And maybe it's a financial thing, but our current bond rating is AA+. It's one step below AAA. We got an increase in our bond rating during COVID, when other towns were losing their bond rating. But when we went through that exercise, what I did hear from professionals who do this analysis and actually have to make a determination, is this a good town or not? What I heard was a lot of compliments about what kind of town Nutley is, our value structure, the way we care, the way we go out of our way to help one another, our community spirit. I think all of those will keep us a strong, desirable town and an attractive town to live in for the future.
Okay, Commissioner, we've dealt with all the serious stuff. Now tell me what you love about Nutley the most.
First thing that comes to mind is you can't discount the park system, right? It's a unique feature. You can't find other towns that actually have a park system that says you can enter the park on one end of town and you can exit on the other end of town. And there's just many beautiful things to look at, to create opportunities for you to just relax. So one, given what I have to do all the time, I enjoy getting out and walking the park system all the time. I like the convenience. I like the fact that I can leave my house and in 3 minutes I can be at the Nutley ShopRite. Now, I don't spend a lot of time in the Nutley ShopRite because I don't cook, right? But I love the restaurants. So I'm able to go out and eat healthy because I can find healthy things to eat, and I enjoy that very much. I also enjoy it when my children come, right? My one son still is local. My other two children are nearby, right? And when they bring my grandchildren, it's just there's so many things to do, right? And for I also enjoy it when my children are able to be around me with my grandchildren, because we can take advantage of the opportunities in Nutley. And one in particular is the Nutley Library, right? We have a great library. We have a great library system. And I don't talk about this, but only from the standpoint of it's really gratifying for me. My wife passed away in the year 2000 from breast cancer. In that year, I established a memorial fund for her at the Nutley Library. Today, it has about $100,000 in it. It's the largest fund in the library, which that isn't the point. What I really love is that I can walk to the library with my children and my grandchildren, and we go into the children's library and open up a book and see the memorial fund dedication to Yolanda, so that my grandchildren can understand their grandmother.
Commissioner Evans, thank you so much for joining us again on Inside Nutley.
Anytime.